This is a Go video on section 2.1. We're going to go over the Go problems from your worksheet. And the directions on the worksheet are to simplify, and we're talking about finding square roots. So we are going to simplify an example problem from problem 19. It's a square root of 49, a squared, b to the 6. You need to know what a square root is. A square root is asking you, for example, the square root of 100 is asking you what times itself, these have to be the same, will give me what's underneath that square root sign, which is 100. So that's 10 times 10. So when we're looking to simplify or break down the square root of 49a squared times b to the 6, they're asking me what two things multiplied together will give me this. So the square root of 49 is 7. You can look at this in pieces. And I would not write it out this way every time, but we're going to for this first example. Square root of 49 is 7. The square root of a squared, what times what, will give you a squared, that's just a. And the square root of b to the 6, what times itself will give me b to the 6, and that's b to the 3rd. So how do I simplify the square root of 49a squared b to the 6? Well, it's 7ab to the 3rd. You'll find on these, if you take a square root of a variable to some power, you just have to divide it in two to figure out what that would be simplified. Okay, we're going to look at number 20, which is a little bit different. Square root times x plus 13 quantity squared. So what times itself will give me x plus 13 quantity squared? Well, that's just x plus 13. X plus 13 times x plus 13, that gives me x plus 13 quantity squared. So if I want to take the square root of that, that works it backwards, and I just get the x plus 13. 21 is very similar, and after I talked about number 20, 21 should be very simple for you. X minus 16 quantity squared. If I take the square root of it, what should I get? Just the x minus 16. In mathematics, the square root oftentimes will undo something squared if the whole entire quantity is. Next, the square root of 36x plus 25, and that quantity is squared. That square root should undo that squaring, so we should end up with just 36x plus 25. 23, same type of problem, and these problems now are looking a lot easier. 11x minus 7 quantity squared. Again, we're undoing what was done. I get 11x minus 7. To wrap it up, we're going to look at one that is a little more complicated. And what do I have here? 9m squared times the quantity 2p to the 3rd minus q quantity squared. Now, go back to question 19. Remember what I did? I took all these and I broke them up. Because these things are getting multiplied together, I can break them up. They're still being multiplied together. I just put those square root signs around everything. Since this one looks a little more complicated, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to say, well, that's the same thing as just the square root of 9m squared times the square root of that quantity, 2p to the 3rd minus q quantity squared. Now this looks a little easier because I know what the square root of 9m squared is, don't I? What is the square root of 9? That's 3. Square root of m squared is just m. I'm going to multiply that by what the square root of this guy is, and that's just like these problems we've been doing, so that's 2p to the 3rd minus q. You could leave the answer this way, but go back to what our directions said. Our directions said to simplify. And if I look at my answer that I have for 24, this looks a little messy still. I can distribute this to clean this up. This answer here is not wrong. It is equivalent to the square root of 9m squared times that quantity squared. But I can simplify it further because this is also equivalent to 6, and we're going to go ABC order here, MP to the third, when you multiply them, minus 3MQ. And this is the best answer. That is what the square root of 9m squared times the quantity 2p to the third minus q quantity squared is. Okay, that is your go video for section 2.1. If you had any questions, hopefully this cleared it up.